hello and welcome to the Ridge Motorsports Park from the beautiful Shelton, Washington track here that we have up in Washington State. I'm Jason Pridmore, and thank you for joining us for another edition of MotoAmerica Raceline, where I'm going to be joined by my partner, Ben Wilson here. We're going to talk about how you can make a little bit of money on some of your favorite riders in our betting show here. And we're going to get to look at some odds and some other things. A little overcast today here at Shelton, as we'd expect it here in Washington, but no rain yet, Ben. And it's only going to get better as the weather goes, as from what I'm understanding, for the weekend. So we should be in for some dry races.
Now, that's the big story coming in, right? Last year, race one was a rain race. We had a little bit of chaos. And, just coming into the weekend in general, I think the big storyline, JP, is the season in general for the Superbike category was really turned on its head with what happened at Road America. You had Cameron Beaubier just cruising, even through race one when he had a couple bobbles, still gets a podium. But his lead goes from 23 down to 2 points after the crash in that second race. Josh Herrin, who you were all over, I give you a ton of credit, JP, gets the sweep. And here you go. I mean, you've got four riders at this point separated by 18 points. Herrin is within 2 of Beaubier. And as we'll take a look at in a second, that has really changed the futures odds, because Beaubier went from odds on at minus 140 or so. He's still the favorite, Jason, but it is by no means a done deal. Now he's plus 103. And Josh Herrin went from nearly 6-1 down to just over 2-1, so a massive shift just after one race.
Yeah, absolutely crazy what Josh Herrin's done so far this year. Maxed out those points that he needed to at the beginning of the year for what he felt he could do with those. Then he's come back to Road America and done exactly what he has seen. As you get a chance to look at our odds here, our futures odds, to your point, he's just a little over 2-1. Bobby Fong sitting there, plus 500. But when you start to look at these things, that Road America round was going to prove to be pivotal. When it looked like Beaubier was trying to ramp up to win race 2, that mistake in the big long carousel there at Road America has proven pivotal in the points.
Something we always talk about, Jason, from a futures perspective, it's all about the timing, right? Getting the best odds when they're available. Our team put together this graphic, we'll show you in a minute, about where these odds were at the start of the season, where they were going into Road America, and where they are now. It's pretty crazy to look at this. I wonder, you and I were looking at Josh Herrin early in the season. He was nearly 6-1 going into Road America, a really good value play. Let's say you added him. Would you be tempted at all to add a guy like a Bobby Fong, who at one point was 16-1? Now he's 5-1. He's been second on the podium each of the last 3 races and 4 of the first 6 this year. I'm curious your take on him, as we've seen Beaubier have his struggles, and we're now seeing Fong be super consistent week in, week out.
Well, to your point, we are at a track where the Yamaha works very, very well. It's got a lot of success here at the Ridge. And I think just as important as Road America was to Josh Herrin, it's going to be an important round for Bobby Fong as well as his partner, Jake Gagne. Now, Jake, as far as we know, he's definitely a lot healthier than he was last year. But I think looking at where he has been in relationship to his teammate Bobby Fong, maybe he's not quite 100% back to where he needs to be, but that fitness is continuing to get better. That right arm that he had operated on or worked on during the offseason has definitely gotten better. But I think Bobby Fong is a guy this weekend to keep an eye on. But, man, that race at Road America has kind of given Josh Herrin that little bit of a bump that he needed to get that double win after just coming from having twins that week. I mean, what a dream week for him.
Yep.
And I think that, for him here, this has been another track that's proven really good for him on that Ducati. It's a smooth track, Ben, and he's able to get that power to the ground as well as it's pretty agile.
And now it leads us into what's going to happen this weekend. We can take a look at our race 1 winner odds. These will reset as a reminder for race 2 as well. So these are just the odds you're going to bet on for race number 1 on Saturday. With Cam Beaubier, the plus 120 favorite, Herrin second at plus 265. Here's where it gets really interesting to me, Jason. Jake Gagne is plus 315, in my opinion, in large part due to the pedigree here. He is your all-time leading winner at the Ridge, 5 wins in his 10 starts, but has not been on the podium each of the last 3 races. He's not in form necessarily. So what do you make of that price compared to, say, a Bobby Fong, who's sitting there at over 8-1, but who has better numbers on the season, his own teammate?
Yeah, well, to your point, I purposely didn't look at the odds before our show today, and Bobby Fong just jumps at you, doesn't he, at 8-1?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you look at that and you think to yourself, man, Bobby Fong at 8-1 at a track like this, he is itching to get his first win on that motorcycle. And you also have to think about one other person there is Sean Dillon Kelly. They've made some big jumps on that Suzuki, and at a track like at Road America, he had a horrendous weekend. Even though he showed some really good pace, this is going to be a track I think will be good for the Suzuki as well. So you look at those guys in 4th and 5th on our odds sheet, and you wouldn't be too shy to spread a little bit of something on them. But, yeah, Bobby Fong definitely jumps off at you on that screen.
Yeah, what about the Yamaha specifically are you anticipating, Jason, seeing having such a good impact on this track?
You know, the Yamaha is known for flow, and this has a lot of that. Even though it's got some stop and goes, it's an interesting thing because all the stop and go corners, Ben, they don't lead on to anything fast. So the Yamaha doesn't have to worry about that acceleration off of some of the slow corners like it does in other places. It's going to allow them to stay a lot closer. The BMW of Cam Beaubier, it's like they have such a small window on that bike at a track like this because of the horsepower of the BMW. Speaking with Cam, he was talking about that the window gets a little bit smaller for him here. And so this is going to be a track where I think Cam's got to come in, and even though he's going to try to win, he's got to minimize mistakes, make sure he gets out of here with good points. As you look at a great head-to-head here of Beaubier and Herrin, 165, I don't think that I would even get close to jumping on that because I think this is a lot closer than these odds are showing us right now.
Certainly so, and with Josh Herrin, plus compare that to where his odds are to actually win the race, plus 265 to win. Beaubier at plus 120. We tend to see these head-to-heads for the top two, and then 3 versus 4. We'll go through some of the other head-to-heads as well here. Bobby Fong, Jake Gagne. We were just talking about this. Fong plus 113. I don't mind putting a sprinkle on Fong either with what we just talked about, as well as a little 8-1 or so for him to win the race at minus 150. Here's the one I really want to get your thoughts on because I'm so glad you brought up Sean Dillon Kelly, Jason. He's minus 125 against JD Beach, who is on the stock 1000. Honestly, JD Beach has gotten so much out of that bike this year, yet at the same time, SDK seems to be primed to make a big bounce back. Had 4 straight 4th place finishes, had a disastrous weekend at Road America, but I was really surprised to see a price on this head-to-head so cheap between Sean Dillon Kelly and JD Beach.
At only minus 125, you're going to bet the house on SDK at this point. Obviously, he's on a super bike. He's going to be trending. He had a bad weekend. That's all that was. I hung out with him all day yesterday. He's very positive. Looking forward to the weekend. This one here, a little out of whack to me. I think that, to your point, Ben, for the number that is, you're laying it all on SDK there.
Yeah, if that was odds were up before last race, you're looking at minus 300 or greater on that. Let's transition to the Super Sport, and PJ Jacobsen continues to be awesome. 6 races, 6 podiums. He is now a prohibitive favorite to win it all. Minus 299 on the futures. We'll take a look at those futures in a second. And it was a disappointing weekend for Matthew Skoltz on Yamaha R9, 3rd and 4th last week. He has dipped from favorite now to pretty distinct second favorite, Jason. A full 20 points back as we go into race number 5.
Yeah, pretty incredible to think that Matthew Skoltz is going to be an underdog anywhere. You got to remember that in every sport, players, teams, whatever, have bad games, have bad games or individual performances. Matthew at Road America, it was just kind of a rough weekend. But I'll tell you right now, Matthew is going to be fast here. I think that this is a track, even though we've seen PJ do well here, when I look at this right now, Matthew jumps out at me so big here. To get him as an underdog, as a future at this stage in the season, yep. I don't think that number can get too much higher than plus 240. So I would take that right now over him just because I think that this is going to be a good track for him. And I still feel like you got to go through Matthew Skoltz to get to this championship.
So often it's about the timing, as we mentioned. Skoltz was plus 115 to start the year as a favorite. He was minus 106 heading into Road America, and then Road America happened. So you're getting him now plus 240. That is an awesome price on a rider who, as you mentioned, JP, is still even being priced in these single race odds, which we'll get to. I mean, he's still the favorite this weekend. He does have 20 points to get through, but there is so much racing out ahead of us. So certainly a really good value play. And as you can see with the way the odds then shift, Ty Scott, Blake Davis, Jake Lewis, this is pretty much a 2-man race for the overall championship. However, for this race weekend specifically, JP, we look at the race odds now and see Skoltz still that minus money favorite. PJ Jacobsen sitting as the second choice with our updated odds for race 1 plus 153. So we're still seeing the odds makers really believe in Skoltz from a race-to-race perspective, as is indicated here.
Yeah, well, I think that what you got to look at when you look at this screen, there's 3 guys that really are going to jump out at me. We've seen Blake Davis win. We know Matthew and PJ are going to do their thing. Ty Scott, I believe he's right in that spot that he needs to be. But for my money, I'm going to look at Corey Alexander, Jake Lewis, and even Cam Peterson, depending on Cam's health as far as his injuries and things like that go. Spoke with him yesterday as well. He seems to be happy and fit. But when you look at this track, it's a very physical track. I think that Corey Alexander and Jake Lewis have the opportunity to use their size to their advantage a little bit here. This morning in our first session, they were both fast. They were both pretty quick. The one person that's not on this that deserves to be is Kayla Yaakov, and I'll tell you why. Last year, she put her Rahal Ducati on the podium, so I'm not sure where she fell into as far as the odds go. Again, this morning, Ben, I'm not positive, but I think she was top 5. But for me, there's a few other people at this track specifically that I would look at.
And I was looking at the odds yesterday. I wanted to ask you about her. She was not even listed on the odds board. So a clear oversight. She's got to be on there with the pace she has shown so far. You're exactly right. All right, let's take a look at some of the head-to-heads. Matthew Skoltz, PJ Jacobsen. So remember, Skoltz about minus 108 to win the race. You're paying a little bit of extra tax if you want to isolate him against Jacobsen here. Minus 135 in this particular matchup. And last year, remember, this is the race where these two came together. There was some controversy, JP.
Yeah.
You wonder if that will get repeated at all this weekend at the Ridge.
I think there's going to be a couple other people in that battle, but again, these 2 guys are the ones to go through. This is one of those things where I wouldn't really throw anything on either one. I think, Ben, the interesting thing here is that Matthew Skoltz is that big of a favorite, even though he's second in the futures right now, which is interesting. Corey Alexander versus Cam Peterson. 2 Ducatis from 2 separate teams going at each other here. Again, if I'm going to put any money on either one of these guys, it's going to be to win the race outright. I don't know if there's that much value in these 2. If I had to choose either way, it would just be simply a coin flip for me on this one. So I think the numbers are pretty close and pretty much what they are for these 2 guys. I think they're going to be locking horns this weekend.
Yeah, we certainly saw Peterson do an outstanding job in the Superbike classification. Remember, he won here last year in a rain race, then took 3rd in race 2 at the Ridge. So it's interesting for me on Peterson, minus 106, with how good he has been on the season, 6th versus Corey Alexander in 15th. But I think you make a great point on the size and how that has tended to play out in some of those bigger riders' favor at a track like this.
Yeah, no, well, Corey's just had an absolutely horrendous year so far on everything he's touched, and I think he's going to try to turn that around. Cam, we've just seen injured, so it's no disrespect to Cam as he's got a great track record around here, but both guys are kind of fighting to get their seasons really rolling. As we look at our third odds here, Dave Anthony, Teague Hobbs, man, this is an interesting one for me. We got the veteran Dave Anthony. We got the youngster Teague Hobbs riding the R9 for BPR. David's doing it all on his own. I think this is right around where it should be. I think if you look at where things are, though, you'd probably maybe have to favor Teague over race distance in this one. We've seen Dave put in some great performances. Race pace throughout the entire race for me. I don't feel David's quite been there on that one. So, you might favor Teague Hobbs here if you had to throw something on this. But I think that, again, David has the ability to run the pace. It's just a matter of the longevity, keeping tires underneath him, and fitness and all those kind of things come into play. That's what I would look at here.
Hey, we love it when we get a little head-to-head further down the board. There's betting value everywhere. We love those different sorts of matchups. So to wrap up here, looking at some of our best bets for today, I think you certainly have to look at adding Bobby Fong on your card for Superbike, getting him 8-1 to win the race. Sean Dillon Kelly a head-to-head over JD Beach, minus 125. It's a number that would have been more like minus 300 before the last race at Road America. And, for Supersport, I think adding Matthew Skoltz in the futures market right now, what awesome value.
Yeah,
you're getting
him
plus 240 right now, second in the running behind PJ Jacobsen and favored this week. And then, look, some of the bombs. You've been so good on these bombs this year, Jason. I give you all the credit on those. Little sprinkle getting over 20-1 on Corey Alexander and Cam Peterson. Something tells me both of them are going to be right in the mix for at least one, if not both of these races.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that all those things that you just mentioned that we've discussed here this morning, I think are going to be really good. Now, real quick before we go off air, Ben, I'm going to get to see you at Laguna Seca. I'm excited for that.
Let's go. I can't wait. I'm counting down the days to hang out with you there in Monterey. Reminder, for more betting content, check out nxtbets.com/playma. This has been the Ridge edition of the MotoAmerica Race Line. For Jason Pridmore, I'm Ben. We'll see you next time from Laguna Seca in Monterey.